Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome back to another live session of Let's Update Language Academy. My name is Ardra.
My name is Surya.
So today we have come up with a speaking live session. Let's familiarize with IELTS speaking. Well, ma'am, can you explain a bit about our IELTS speaking test?
Sure. First, let's move to the basics about the timing. We will have like 11 to 14 or 15 minutes maximum to get your speaking session. And there will be 3 sessions in your IELTS speaking. And in the first session, the examiner will ask you to introduce yourself, and then there will be some familiar topics regarding your hometown or family, studies, work, as well as interest. And in this pattern or in this session, one thing you have to remind you is that please try to phrase sentence, because people always used to replay within a word when they have been asked questions.
For example, let me ask you a question. Do you watch television often?
Of course, yes. As a person who loves movies, I always depend on television to watch it. This is the way I think the students have to answer the question.
And sometimes the students just say a word yes and stop answering the question. So that is not the way. You have to just frame a big sentence and make sure that you are giving an explanation for your answer to make it more beautiful and
clear.
Yeah. Okay. So in the second part, you'll be getting a cue card, and this is the part where you have to speak for 2 minutes continuously, and that is why it is known as individual long run. Okay, so your examiner won't interrupt you throughout this 2 minutes, and in this part, you'll be given a task card with a set of prompts, and you'll be getting a minute for preparation only for this part. You'll be getting a minute for preparation, and you'll be given with a pen and paper, so you can just jot down if you want any points that will be helpful when it comes to your speaking or long speech, and there may be chances you might skip these points, so it will be helpful where you can just look at the points if you missed or if you feel blank at times. Okay, so and make sure that you should cover all the points on the task card and be sure to complete it within this 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, moving to part 3.
Yeah, part 3 is related to part 2 cue cards. You will be asking some questions which is related to the topics of your cue card, and there you have to answer, or like you have to elaborate the sentences, unlike during your introductory part, because in introductory part you can answer with like 2 to 3 sentences, I guess. But in the follow-up questions, you have to answer like 3 or maximum number of 5. Okay, and then please try to provide a very relevant and valid opinion, because when the examiner is asking you to generalize, you have to answer in a generalized way. And if he or she asks about your personal opinion, then you can share your personal opinions, because some students are creating that mistake.
Yeah. For example, I would say, if the examiner asks you a question like, do you watch horror movies, or why do you watch horror movies? So it's a very personal question that you could answer from your side. But if the examiner asks you a question like, why young people prefer to watch horror movies, it's a general question. Okay, so you have to look for a general perspective than confined to a personal opinion.
Because in personal questions they will ask use the words like your opinion, or tell me about your perspective. So through that keywords you will be able to identify whether it is a general question or a personalized one.
Yeah, if it is a general question, you should use we instead of we and I, you should use general terms like people, individual, person. If it is mentioned like elders or younger people, then you should use the term instead of using you, we and I. Okay. So we are moving to our practice question.
Today we are dealing with a cue card. I think that's a recently asked card, so let's
Yes.
discuss that. So, ma'am, could you please read the question for
Yeah,
me?
sure. Describe an activity that made you feel tired, when and where it took place, why you took part in it, what the activity was, and explain why it made you feel tired. So, as ma'am said before, it is one of the recent cue cards that have officially asked for the examination. So, we'll prepare this task. When I was explaining the second part, I have told you you'll be getting a minute to prepare the task. So, if you are ready, you can just join with us to prepare this task. Well, we'll do it with cross method. See, if you have seen our previous videos where we have already discussed several other cue cards, so you are familiar with cross method. So I'll show it for you. Ma'am, can you help me with the points?
Yeah, sure. So here they have asked about an activity which you felt really tired. Okay, not just an activity, but the activity which you felt tired. And there are certain sub questions too, as Arthur ma'am already discussed regarding the sub questions. So let's move to the answers, like the keywords. The first question is when and where it took place. So here they are asked about the incident
yeah.
it happened and where it took place. So let's take it's like 2 months back. And where, like Kochi, Hayat. And in the second part, why you took part in it. Okay, why we were a part of that particular activity. So let's consider it as like adventure of friends. And then what activities was. Actually, here is a major part.
Yeah.
So let's consider it as kayaking, water sport, popularity, and the last question, and explain why it made you feel tired. 30 minutes, about the time phrase. Physical effort, 2 seats, row. Okay, so we have done with our keywords in the close method. Ma'am, could you please tell me what is the advantage of this close method? Excuse me.
Okay. Ma'am, you can continue with it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was asking, we have, sorry, it's not there. Anyway, I hope that you have written with us, along with us. And could you please tell me what is the advantage of this cross method? Why we can't do it in a normal way?
Yeah. Why it is important to write keywords is because you won't be able to read what you have written in front of it. Because you'll be getting only 1 minute, and if you're writing too many sentences, you won't be able to complete all these points within this 1 minute. So it is just write keywords or shorthands to make it memorize. So when you feel blank in between, you can just have a glance to the paper and you may not be able to read it completely. And if you write in sentences, it will be difficult for you to find where the information or which points you have covered and what are left. So it is really important to do this cross method when you get a minute for preparation. That is really important. And you should not leave without preparation. That is also important. Either without writing or either writing too many sentences are not preferable. It is better to prepare and write some keywords, and that is important, right, ma'am?
Yes, and the most beneficial thing is that you don't have to get bothered about the spelling, I guess.
Yeah, because you are the only one who is reading it.
Yeah, so you can write the short notes. Ma'am, could you please write it once again, right?
Yeah, sure.
So let's see how we are making keywords, like by writing the short forms of these words like when and where?
Yeah. Okay. It's 2 months ago.
Okay, so ma'am
Kuch
is not writing the entire
sentence.
sentences as well as spelling of months, right? And second, why you took part in
Okay. Then Hayat.
that?
Okay. Why you took
Why you
part?
took part in it? Adventure and friends,
Obviously, bucket list.
bucket list friends.
Okay.
Here you can see we have just written as ADVE for adventurous, because when we look, we know what we meant. Okay, so that's a major thing when you're writing your close method keywords in close method. Don't bother about the spellings or initials or anything. Just write it what comes in your mind. Okay, it's like a kind of brainstorming, I guess.
Yes. For each and every sub question, you should find at least 3 or 4 keywords. Otherwise, you won't be able to meet the time requirement. So you have to talk for 2 minutes, and at least you have to make 12 to 15 sentences to complete all this 2 minutes. At least 1.5 minutes. Okay. So it is better to write 3 or 4 sub points for each question prompt that I have given. Yeah. Moving ahead, the third one, what
the
the
activities
activity
was.
was. So this is really important when it comes to cue card. Your choice matters a lot. Okay, if you're taking an activity that you are not familiar with, it will be difficult for you to.
To find the entire keywords.
Yeah. So here we are taking kayaking.
Kayaking, water sport. So you can write related to that particular major term, because if it's kayaking, we know that it's a water sport, right?
Yeah.
Then explain why it made you feel tired. Physical activity,
Physical activity, obviously, yes. Then
row,
the
30
time,
minutes.
then what the activity was,
Okay.
then
2 seats. Okay.
okay.
So this is the way we structured our keywords. And once again, I would like to remind you that don't get bothered about the spelling, and also please try to prepare at least 2 words for each question.
Yeah.
And ma'am, can we follow like anti-clockwise direction, or is it okay to have a clockwise direction?
It is better to have a clockwise direction, and it is not necessarily to be in this order. You have to mention all these points within this 2 minutes, and it should not be necessary to follow the correct order. But it will be better if you could arrange in the same order, because it should have a natural fluency or natural order. So it will make you more coherent when you are speaking. But that is not absolutely necessary to follow these order. You can just include all these points that you have to make sure.
Yeah, what makes it's mandatory is you have to prepare it. Without preparation, it won't be up to your expectation. You can't do your best. So with preparation, you can do it in a very better way.
Sometimes we feel like less confident when we speak in front of the examiner. So that is why there may be chances to forget what we have planned in our mind. So it is better to write these points before answering the question. Okay, all right. So shall we move to
the next part, like the presentation part, where you will get 2 minutes to present yourself, like whatever you have written, you have to present it.
Okay. Yeah.
So shall I read it, ma'am?
Yeah, sure.
This includes all the keywords which we have presented earlier, and let's read it. As an adventurous person, I always prefer to do activities whenever I get a chance. Here we have to be bit aware about the general statement, okay? Because whenever we are getting a question, there is a tendency to either copy the question as such, Or
Or the conventional method of saying, I would like to talk about an activity that made me feel tired, or today I would like to talk about. So this is the cliche dialogues or cliche openings that we have practiced throughout these years. So we have to change it and give a general statement to make it more convincing to the examiner. So it will be beautiful if you try for a general statement than opening with the traditional ones. Okay, yeah.
yes, and there will be confusion regarding how to phrase a general statement.
Yeah.
Uh, it is
So
always
you can just ask a question to this topic. Okay,
Yeah.
what this topic is about and why you take part in this activity. So if you choose a topic for the cue card, you can just ask why I took part in this or what made me took part in this activity. So obviously you'll get an answer and that can be your general statement. It can be work with the same for IELTS essay writing too.
essay, exactly. So we can choose the word activity, and then when we can phrase different kinds of sentences,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Okay. So as an adventurous person, I always prefer to do activities whenever I get a chance. And 2 months ago, while I was surfing Instagram, I came across a sport, kayaking, and then I was curious to know more about that particular activity, and I found a place that offers the same in my hometown, Kochi. I spoke to a few of my friends about the same, and one of them contacted the concerned person, and he gave us two options. One is in Queensway and the other one is in Grand Hyatt. I chose Grand Hyatt because the view is incredible there. And I haven't had a chance to try such a challenging water sport, so that is why I decided to be a part of it. And kayaking has recently gained a wide popularity among youngsters, and some of my friends have tried it. So after seeing the photos which they post on Instagram, I was quite longing to do the same activity. And it was done in still water, and we were six, and they gave us three two-seat kayaking boats. 30 minutes were allocated time to do this particular activity, and we were given life jackets too for safety. It was really tiring because I was sitting in the back and I had to row with a great strength. I felt really exhausted after completing the task. And when I reached back home, my legs hurt and my hands were numb. Even though it was a really tiring activity, I enjoyed it pretty well.
Okay, so that is enough for 2 minutes, and we have covered all sub
Yeah.
questions given with the topic. Okay,
And if you're having a little bit more time, like a few seconds, you can even have a cooked up story. Like
yeah.
if we are having a few more seconds, we might say like,
Yeah, while I was
yeah,
doing kayaking, we were singing songs and we thoroughly enjoyed the whole time.
I'm looking forward to have
Yeah,
more
even
these
we
kind of
have taken
activities.
some photographs
Yeah.
while sitting on the kayaking boat, and initially it was quite frightening, but gradually I cope with my fear, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So this is the way you can just add some more points to make it more lengthier.
Yeah, the only
Okay.
thing is you have to be connected with these points.
Yeah.
Don't deviate from it, and you can say like, okay, in future also, I'm really looking forward
To
to
do
do
more
parasailing,
activities.
paragliding, or several such activities, and there are a lot more in my bucket list. Okay, so be familiar with the topic and try to add more points to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I
So
think there are some tips from Arja ma'am to how to
improve your
improve
speaking
your
skills.
speaking.
So obviously the first one is practice speaking. So I have seen a lot of students who are reading a lot of books and articles, essays, and everything to improve their speaking. Obviously, I don't think it is irrelevant, but definitely it will improve your vocabulary, but it won't improve your speaking skills. So if you want to speak better, then you have to practice more speaking in English. Okay, Otherwise, you won't be able to speak out a single word, even though you have a lot of vocabulary inside you, or you may be having a lot of thoughts that can be connected together, or you feel very confident when you're thinking inside. But when it comes to speaking in front of another person, you may be feel a little bit less confident. So
A bit
obviously,
hesitant to convey your messages.
yeah. So it really needs an effort and practice more speaking in English, English, and you can just try it with your friends or maybe a group of people that speak English. Okay.
And then next is expand your vocabulary. As ma'am said, there are many ways to expand your vocabulary by reading books or watching movies. But the simplest way to improve or to enhance a good vocabulary is that whenever you are using a word, a common word or a daily base used word, please try to use the synonym of that word.
Yeah.
Okay, for example, daily we might use the word beautiful, right? So instead of that, we can use the word gorgeous. Fascinating, gorgeous, mesmerizing. So these kind of techniques will try to improve or strengthen your vocabulary.
Yeah, because lexical resource is one of the parameters of your marking criteria. So obviously you should not repeat the words very often. Try to reduce the frequency of repeating words and use some synonyms, and that will help you to paraphrase the question when it comes to part 3 as well. Okay, the third one is fluency. Why it is important to be fluent? And some people have an idea that fluency is something that you speak very fast. That is not the case. You should maintain a moderate speed throughout your speaking. So some topics you may be you may be familiar, and you may be mug up after a few speaking sessions, especially when it comes to hometown or what do you do for your living. So these we are thoroughly okay with this question. So we have a readily available answer for this. But when you speak this too fast, and when it comes to part 3, you may be lagging because of some lack of content or maybe lack of vocabulary. It can affect your speaking. So it is better to maintain a moderate speed throughout your speaking session.
And there might be confusion regarding about the accent, right? Because many of students will ask like, okay, should I sounds like a 4 not to get a band of 6 or 7? It's not like that.
It is not necessary, but make sure that your pronunciation is correct. Whether you're using Aussie accent or the British accent, or whether it is American accent, whatever the accent be, make sure that the pronunciation is correct. You are pronouncing the words correctly, because it is another parameter in your marking assessment criteria.
So you don't have to be really concerned.
And when you listen to Surya ma'am, you have heard that how she reads the sentences. There are intonations, pauses, stress, and whenever you feel that is relevant to stop or necessary to stop or take a pause, you should, and make stress. So pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, then your chunking, pauses, everything is important when it comes to your speaking test. And if you want to score more than 7.5, obviously you have to look for these things.
And you don't have to be really concerned about the accent.
Yeah.
Okay, next is practice with sample questions, which is the most relevant thing for improving your speaking. Try to get as much as questions from like there are different sites available.
These days we are used to social media platforms, and there are so many Instagram channels.
Even we are having our own Let's Update channel. We have uploaded so many listening, reading, and speaking materials, as well as live sessions. Watch that and try to refer those
practice questions. Yeah. Okay. Then record yourself. That is also important. Some people may not be having a speaking partner to talk to. So you can practice by yourself by just recording it on your mobile phone, and you can hear it multiple times and correct it by yourself. And if you want more correction, then obviously you should approach an expert for that. And we have a few more tips for improving your speaking. So then it is time management.
Yeah. Because we are having a particular time for part 2, that is 1 minute for preparation, 2 minutes for presentation, and they are really strict about it. So you have to be really careful regarding that timing.
And within this 2 minutes, you have to make sure that you cover all the points given with the task card. Okay, and other one is that is really important. More than that, everything you have to be really confident and relaxed. Why it is important to be relaxed when it comes to speaking test?
The first thing is, I've heard that it purely depends upon the phase of the examiner.
Yeah.
Because most of the students used to tell us, oh ma'am, no, we felt really frightened when we saw the face of the examiner, and we don't know the reason.
Oh, she was not at all listening me.
She was not
She
smiling
tired.
even.
She was really sleepy. So these are the comments that we come across when it comes to where after our students used to go and come. So that is really important. You should not look for the examiner's expressions or their facial expressions or their attitudes. They don't have anything to do with you personally. So nothing biased that got to happen in your exam. So be relaxed and confident. Otherwise, you won't be able to present what is inside you.
Because whenever we are confident, there are certain benefits, like they might not be able to get the errors, mistakes in the first hand itself. And also, when we are confidently expressing ourselves, it will be a positive point,
Obviously.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
And the importance of relax is that if you're relaxed, then
You can express
yourself in a very
better.
easy manner.
Yeah. Otherwise, you may be troubling and you may be confused whether I have covered it or not. Is she going to give me good marks? So you will be having a lot of questions inside. So better to be relaxed, and they have nothing to do with you personally. So keep in mind that. Okay.
Fortunately, our students are really confident during the speaking sessions.
Yeah. Okay. So the second last one is listen carefully. This is really important. As we have already mentioned, there will be questions that are questions that seek personalized opinion as well as general opinions or your general viewpoints on something. So you have to look for or listen to the question really carefully and understand the question in which tense they are asking for. Sometimes it can be in future tense. They may be asking, what would you like? Or it may be something that happened in the past, maybe a comparison between past and present. So you have to look for these keywords and you have to completely listen to the examiner. And if you are not able to catch the question, obviously you can ask the question for further clarification, but make sure that you are polite.
Yeah, you can use the words like pardon me, could you please repeat it? Okay. So the last one is, please don't memorize your answers, especially when it comes to the part 1. Sorry.
And even part 2, there will be questions, guesswork questions will be there, and also they come up with answers. But do not memorize these answers or do not mug up these answers, because in part 3, you have to give your personalized opinions on everything, your viewpoint. There you have to explain yourself and you have to elaborate with relevant examples if you have. So when it comes to part 3, you may be caught. So it is better.
The true nature will be
yeah. So it is better not to memorize and try to maintain a natural flow throughout your speaking test.
And the other thing is, when you're memorizing things and if you miss the point, then ultimately the entire task will get affected. Yeah. So it would be great if you can relate yourself, I guess. If it's hometown, we are living in a place for like years. So we'll be able to get
talk
answers
from your
spontaneously.
experience.
Yeah.
Talk from your experience.
Exactly.
That would be better. So if you can emotionally connect something to our topic, then it will be more easy for you to explain yourself.
Exactly.
So do it in that way rather than memorizing these answers. And apart from that, we would just explain the parameters of your marking criteria for your reference once again. So it is pronunciation, then fluency and coherence, and your lexical resource, your range of vocabulary, and the last one is grammar. Obviously, grammatical range and accuracy is important. You should use different linking words and you should use some speaking discourse markers.
Even you can use idioms.
Idioms. idioms. Obviously, idioms are really important, but if you are not confident about using idioms, do not use it. Okay?
Yeah, you have to know where to use it.
Yeah, so if you can use idioms properly, then that is a fine, because if you are able to use some idiomatic phrases in your mother tongue, it means that you're proficient in the language. So with the same thing, if you are doing it for another language or in English, yeah, obviously it means that you are proficient in the language.
You
And
have proficiency in that.
yeah, so you can use idiomatic expressions, collocations, look for collocations. So accordingly, you can practice or browse for these kind of vocabulary
And
on the internet. And you should use different sentence structures in your speaking test.
try to use complex sentences instead of these simple sentences.
Yeah, for that you can use some conjunctions.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have a grip on grammar.
Exactly. Try to have a polished language
Yeah.
rather than a base language if you're aiming like more than 5.5.
More sophisticated language.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And ma'am, and I think for all this thing, we need a platform, because there are always a restriction when we try to do it by ourselves, right?
Limitations, because our knowledge is limited.
Yeah.
And we should definitely need some experts to guide us through this speaking session or even in writing. For reading and listening, I think practice will be okay, or practice will be beneficial for you. At the same time, for speaking and writing, you need an expert advice,
because there should be someone to pick your error, and you have to be taught like what is the correct one, or to improve yourself.
Yeah, how to improve your thoughts, or how to arrange it properly,
Yeah.
or how to sequence your ideas properly. And apart from that, as I said before, most of them do not have a person to talk to.
A space to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I think we have that space
Yeah,
with a trained advanced trainers. So you can join Let's Update Academy, and for further details, please contact us. Thank you. And then we are also coming with the next session in the next week. See you then.
Thank you. Bye.